Today we're going to talk about two biggest headlines, the first one being Nottingham Forest. It's just ticked over that they've signed 30 new players this season, which, is that a record?
I'd say it probably is.
The English summer, they signed 21 new players. It's just ticked over now in January to an extra 9, which included 2 free agents in there as well. Coming from the Championship, getting promoted this season new to the Premier League, obviously they need to strengthen their squad, add a lot of squad depth as well to compete at the top level. But yeah, obviously today we're going to talk about that. My first question to Jake, who I have with me today. Do you think this is beneficial to a club? Obviously they're not in the relegation zone now. I think they're 13th.
Yep.
For any clubs coming up, getting promoted in future, do you think, they should be looking at Nottingham Forest and going, okay, we need to sign 30 new players?
Yeah. I mean, Fulham signed a fair few last time they went up as well, didn't they? I think
then that kind of, it didn't work out for them.
Yeah, because I think, for Forest, you say, they've got plenty of options, but when it was Fulham, it was like, they haven't got any chemistry or anything like that. So I suppose if you're staying in the top middle table, you take it. But yeah, I don't know, it'd be hard to try and build chemistry with your teammates. You just walk down the corridors like, you're new?
Where are the change rooms?
It's just first day at school, all right, icebreakers, let's go around.
No one knows anyone. There's no core group of players.
Yeah, it's like one guy's been here forever. It's like, that's it. But I can't imagine the wages and that sort of thing. I mean, I think they're a little bit smart. They've done a lot of loans and that sort of stuff. So if they do get relegated, at least they can sort of, try and trim around the edges and get those guys out and free agents and stuff like that. But
how about just the huge overall? I mean, you look at any established club. I mean, it's hard to compare them, but if you look at Liverpool, right?
It's 1 or 2 players.
Yeah, every season you're just looking at, okay, what position do we need? Okay, we'll buy there. Yeah. I mean, it's the jump from the Championship to the Premier League so big that you do need a whole new squad.
They've still got players there that were from the Championship. So they've got 20 players and then added 30. So it's 50 blokes just trying to get this team of 11. I don't know what they do every week. Can you imagine not even making the squad or anything? But yeah.
Well, they can only have 25 players in the squad.
Yeah, registered, yeah. And then because they've had tons of internationals, so you have to have certain English players and stuff like that as well.
Yeah, there's so many rules you have to abide by.
Yeah, and
But do you think, I guess, Nottingham Forest's number one priority would obviously be to get promoted and then stay up. So
because the royalties keeps them alive.
Yeah, they want that Premier League money, the TV rights. That's a big payday for any club. So even if they finish 17th, I think they're going to be jumping for joy at this stage.
100%.
But like you mentioned, Fulham did that a couple of seasons ago now and immediately get relegated, and everyone is just like, these guys are idiots. Why are you buying so many players? That's clearly not going to work. You've wasted the money. They obviously go down, and a lot of the players probably have clause in their contract or whatever, whether they then leave.
Yep.
So what do you think in terms of that as a strategy? It's probably too many, hey? Even 10.
I mean, you can sort of justify this year because it's been the World Cup. There's going to be more double ups, but these guys are they're not in Europe or anything like that. They're playing once a week. So as a manager, I imagine it'd be difficult. You got all these top flight professionals and be like, sorry mate, not your week.
How do you go about team selection? Because you said, there's still the existence. So you've got 30 coming in. There is obviously a lot that would have left or maybe gone out, but there is still a few players left over.
And I mean, healthy competition's good. But can you imagine a training be midfielders over there, it's 40 blokes.
It's just too many. The wage bills and everything internally must be a nightmare. Yeah. I mean, obviously there's
HR team.
Yeah. The whole player liaison, they'd have to employ so many player liaisons and the food bills.
Imagine the physio is
he can't get through them all in the week. There's so many players.
Healthy competition is good, but I think when you get too many players, you start just getting infighting and I just can't imagine it being healthy. But
maybe too much. If you've got 2 guys fighting for the one spot, that could be good to spur each other on. But if you've got 3 players,
4, or just some bloke would just give up because he's there's no chance of playing.
And now each player is now playing less than they are playing.
Yeah. And I guess you could justify it. How would you think? All right, we won't buy as many players, but we'll buy more quality players.
Yeah. That's a great argument.
Yeah.
You want quality, not quantity.
Yeah, and you want chemistry. Where these guys are going to make runs, but if you're changing the team every week, you can't really build that. But I'd definitely be more around spend a bit more on quality players, and because I think they've done that a little bit. They bought some young guys, and at least with the young guys, if you do go down, their transfer value is high. They've got more experience, but. Yeah, I think it's a risky game to play because if they get relegated, you'd have to hate to see the financials.
Even what we've touched on previously, where when Tottenham, they sold Bale and they got that money.
Yeah.
And they replaced him with a number of players. And it was just like, that's just too many players to be buying.
Lotto, just like buying as many tickets as you can.
Yeah.
Like, surely one's going to hit. Like,
yeah. Like, it doesn't really work out. Like, Liverpool famously did the opposite where they sold Coutinho.
And
they just got like, hey, we need a keeper, we need a centre-back.
Yep.
We spent all the money on those two positions.
Like, it's a spine at the team, isn't like, that's what they would say. Like, you want the central defenders, keepers, centre midfielders. But Nottingham Forest are just,
They've obviously got a good team to get promoted from the Championship, but if they just took the money that they've spent and just maybe, like you said, bought a spine, if they just bought like 4 players, if they just bought like decent centre-back, maybe 2 midfielders, or maybe even 1 keeper, centre-back, midfielder and a striker.
Yeah, you think they'd be in a better position?
You think surely. I mean, obviously if those players get injured, there's a bit more risk to that.
Yeah, I suppose,
But if you're surrounding those players with decent, like, I know the jump is massive, but 30 players is ridiculous. And Fulham, was less than that, and even still back then. And because they got relegated, it gets used against you. Whereas if Forest stay up now, so easily you could be like, okay, great decision. No,
every team coming
well.
up will just be like, yep, 50 players.
Yeah, Nottingham Forest, they're one of 3 teams that have come up.
Yep.
They're the only team to have acted like this. Like Fulham and Bournemouth have not gone and done the same thing. Obviously, they've bought
I think Bournemouth bought a fair few, but...
Yeah, you need to do that, but 30. Like, that's just too many. I mean, someone else will argue if they stay up, it's not too many because it's done the job.
Yeah, I suppose,
But I just struggle to believe that is the most efficient model to act when you get promoted into the Premier League.
Yeah, and for me, it's like the wages. Like, because they've got guys from top clubs like Navas, like Henderson from United, like all these guys will be on like so much money. Like, and that adds up. Like, you might be paying loan fees and all that sort of stuff. Is that better money you can invest into your stadium or your academy products and stuff like that to try and create this sustainable sort of club where you can stay in the Premier League for a longer time?
Do you think their mindset is literally get up, survive the year?
Yeah.
Like, they're not thinking, 3-4 years down the track?
Yeah, probably not. Like, I'm sure they probably have some sort of like succession plan. Like, first couple of years stay up, and then, you're probably attracting better players. Like, if you're in the Prem, it's the biggest league in the world now. Like, you have the ability. Can you imagine, like, 20 years ago, like someone like Navas being like, "Yeah, we're going to play for Nottingham Forest."
Yeah, it just wouldn't happen.
It just wouldn't happen, would it? So it's a different league now, but. Yeah, definitely. I think they need to stay up and hopefully they don't get into that relegation battle. Otherwise, I'd hate to see there.
Well, what happens, if they get into the relegation battle, they go down, and now obviously all 30 go.
Call the other blokes they got rid of, like, hey, what are you doing?
Yeah, they need to get all their old players back or something, and they're doing the whole thing again, and now they're further behind than they were the season they got promoted.
Yeah.
Because they would have spent this whole season trying to make 30 new players gel, and then those guys are just like, oh sweet, you're relegated, I'm heading off.
I know a lot of clubs now have like clauses and stuff. If we get relegated, your wages go a lot down. Because there was clubs that didn't do that, like Sunderland and stuff like that. So when they got relegated, they just got murdered financially. So I think they're a little bit smarter, like these clubs that come up now. But I think they would struggle a little bit.
Yeah, it just seems to me they're not thinking long term. Like, it's very much, let's just survive the year.
Instant.
Yeah, like we'll go all out on surviving this one season and then just deal with the consequences of what comes later. Because you think, after, like you said, so many guys, they're fighting for positions. Come the next transfer window, they've gone, I've been at Forest all season, I've played 2 games, so I'm out of here. So I guess they're going to have that to deal with in future as well. Yeah, I guess the other topic we wanted to touch on as well was Chelsea. Obviously around transfers, they've gone out and spent a substantial amount of money, over 600 million.
Bit of money.
Yeah. What's that down to? Obviously they got new owners in last year. Is he trying to prove a point? Or again, is this way of behaving going to bring success on the pitch? Is this the best way to do it?
Don't know, probably. I mean, look at City, who've spent like a lot of money and that's sort of led to success, but is it Guardiola or is it the players?
Well, United have spent a lot of money
in
the past,
that's a good point.
Didn't really work out. So you've got to be obviously quite smart with your signings.
With your money,
not just spend money, you win. There's an element of...
Yeah, I mean, Chelsea they've bought a few players that they're going to stash overseas for a couple of years and then sell them on, hopefully at a more exorbitant price in the future. I guess like investments sort of.
Yeah,
stash them.
Well, they've brought in like 23 new guys, it seems, and I think Nottingham Forest have, as we've mentioned, done 30.
23 compared to 30.
Yeah, but they've spent like a lot less money. Like Chelsea have gone and after the sum they had where they spent like 300 million, everyone was like, wow, what a huge amount. And then they've gone and like essentially doubled it in the January as well, buying like World Cup winners and stuff like that. Like João Felix even coming in on loan, but just around like the wages they're paying for him and.
Was it because he got that red card? He's only playing like
the amount.
per game is like £1 million or something.
and they calculate like the per game cost of him.
Yeah.
Is that just the way modern day football is? Because are all other clubs expected to do that now to compete, do you think?
I don't think so. I think, like, look, if you look at Liverpool, like, their transfer, like, net has been pretty good considering they do spend a bit of money, but, like, not many people factor in, like, how much they've sold. So, like, you'd have to say that's probably the rare sort of case in the Premier League, especially now. Look, at least Chelsea are buying, like, young players like Enzo and, like, at least if they're buying these young guys, you'd think over time, like, their transfer value should increase sort of thing. And, you know, playing for a club like Chelsea, you get more exposure and that sort of thing. But
they were giving them, like, 8-year contracts and, like,
yeah, that's right.
super long-term deals.
Yeah.
Like, that is that going to be beneficial long term? Because sure, these players are going to be wanting, like, if they improve, they're going to want to renegotiate.
Yep.
Or if they're no good, they're just going to sit back and just earn this money.
Well, like, if they get better, it's a good decision because you've got that power. You'd be like, no, you got this contract, you got to sign it. But you imagine if, like, they're just not playing, and you're paying this guy like £80,000, he's just sitting there just cashing those checks. So I guess from a, like, business side of things, it's probably good if they do really well, but if it goes the other way, it's going to be pretty expensive.
Do you reckon it's purely like a financial auditing thing? Because the amount of times you see players, like, with these long-term contracts, they can, it seems, have that little bit of power now where they can push for a move.
Yeah.
I mean, Chelsea signed Fofana from Leicester, who he wasn't rocking up to training and he was doing the whole protesting.
Yeah.
Got his move to Chelsea and
players they have more power now, but I mean, like Brighton's Casado, he did that as well, didn't he?
Yeah, they just push and move.
Yeah, but he sort of Brighton just said no, you're not going anywhere, sort of thing. So I guess if they've signed a contract, like they'd have to stay. But
if you've got 8 years on your contract, or you've done 1 year out of the 8 and you've got 7 left and you're like, okay, I'm actually killing it here, I need either a pay increase or something, and your club's like, nah, like,
I suppose you lose motivation maybe a little bit, but I guess Chelsea's side of thing, like, they're looking maybe like wages are just exponentially going up sort of thing. So maybe if we like lock it in place, like we can like have a little bit more power negotiating. But yeah, it's an interesting game to play. Like,
yeah, there's obviously been some rumours flying around and play as well about the Super League maybe having a little bit of a resurgence. There's a new proposal that's come out. Well, the way I see it is the Premier League, like we've mentioned, all the money to spending, all the transfers. The Premier League's already kind of that Super League status.
Yep.
When I've seen comparisons of how much the Premier League spent on transfers, it's like more than all the other leagues put together. So to me, it just seems like all these other big clubs around the world are just wanting to, like, they're trying to find a way in.
Get a cut, yeah. Well, I guess like you probably look at some of those like Spanish teams or like mid-tables, like they're not getting like anywhere near the amount of like Nottingham Forest or like these teams at Bournemouth that come up. So I guess if you're a lot of these European countries, you want to try and get a piece of that pie sort of thing. And I guess with like modern day travel and stuff like that, it probably becomes more accessible for like clubs. Like, you could just charter a flight and just fly for like Champions League. I guess sort of shows that now, but they've bought a few new interesting things like that relegation and that sort of. It's not like an elitist trying to get the buy-in of like people, but yeah, I don't know. It'll go like people love tradition in football, so I can't imagine. Because what if you start the Super League? Like, do you look at winning Premier League? So like for a club like Liverpool, United, you go, we've won all these Premier Leagues, but like kids would be like, oh, how many Super Leagues you won or something like that.
Yeah,
like,
it becomes like the new thing.
Yeah, so yeah, it's interesting, but yeah, I think there's just globalisation sort of maybe pushing towards this,
But it's strange, like obviously we've just spoken a lot about like the money and the income and like Nottingham Forest, you can just get promoted and spend all this money. Are the English teams better off just going, hey look, we've actually got a pretty good thing here in the Premier League.
Yeah.
We'll stay here. Even the lower teams in the Premier League have realised how good they've got at the amount of TV money they make and everything like that. It just, to me, seems like a lot of the other teams are like, oh hey, we need a way to get involved here. We're a big club, we've got a huge fan base. We need a way that can see us come in and get more money, and that's why the Super League, it feels like it's kind of come around.
Yeah, 100%. I think pretty much all those European teams will be trying to create this sort of thing. So, and yeah, I guess it'd be England trying to like not, but I guess it gets difficult, like how many positions do you allocate to which countries and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Nowadays, like if you're starting, say it's like 40 top teams from Europe, you think there'd be a pretty high percentage of the Premier League teams that would be in that. So yeah, I guess if you're the EPL, you probably have a position of power for it, but yeah, I don't know. I think football's a lot traditional, and I can't really see this sort of kicking off too much.
The whole like English, like the British football pyramid, the way it works right now, it seems to like work out quite well. The relegation, the whole promotion side. And like you said, just like the history of the club competitions, the players growing up wanting to win certain trophies.
Even those rivalries and stuff like that as well, you might not get them.
Yeah.
Like playing European sort of like cities, countries.
Well, when you watch like the Champions League and you do have these massive games where the big clubs do play each other, you might see like, if you got PSG versus Real Madrid or whatever it is, if that fixture is happening 4 times a year,
yeah, you get desensitized to it a bit.
Like that becomes the norm. So I think people might be forgetting that kind of aspect to it where you know, the Super League will just completely normalise these big fixtures, and that's kind of somewhat of the Champions League, like the element that makes it so special, because you do have these big heavyweights.
The same as like the World Cup, because they're trying to like bring the World Cup more frequent than every 4 years and stuff like that. So, and, you know, they're increasing the amount of teams and the amount of games they play. So yeah, look, I think it's just revenue sort of thing.
It's just all about money, hey?
It's all about money.
Yeah, like money talks at the end of the day. Like they just think, okay, what can we do that's going to maximise our income and make us more money? Let's do that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, like the World Cup's so special because it is 4 years, and obviously in between that you've got the Euros as well, which is every 4 years. So
yeah, and there's so many competitions now, but I think the relegation thing would be big to try and get those clubs in, even because, like, you know, if you're AFL, basketball, all those, they'll have all the finals, whereas, like, you know, football doesn't really have, we've got cups but not finals, so you can imagine if there's like 20 teams and like you're towards the bottom, like halfway through you just keep your season away, winning that sort of thing. So if there's no relegation sort of battle, so I think that's a big thing to try and do, but yeah, just wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I hope there is no Super League. Like when it came around last time, and I was quite glad it got shut down.
Yeah.
Kind of obviously enjoy the way it's currently set up, and like I mentioned, it seems like just other teams trying to get a piece of the pie and get some of the Premier League revenue, because right now that seems to be the Super League. You see how much they're spending, you see the wages, quality players are going from like these great teams, like you mentioned Navas, going to like a team that's just been promoted into the Premier League, but already like financially they can probably compete with like a top team in another league. Yeah, that just about does us for today. If you guys have enjoyed that chat, make sure you give the video a like, check your comments in the comment section.
That'd be where you put them.
Yeah, let us know if you agree with anything that we've said, anything you disagree with, your thoughts on, you know, the transfer activity of both Nottingham Forest, Chelsea, and obviously if you guys are behind the Super League as well. If you're not following us on Instagram already, check us out on there. We'll notify you of when we're uploading videos and some other news that happens day to day in football as well. But otherwise, I've been Ant. This has been Jake.
Pleasure as always.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. No, all right. Awesome. This has been Red Mate. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next one.